What I would like to speak with you about today is the state of science education in America and restoring the scientific method. I'm here to express the urgent need for a course correction in science education. American students are not being taught, they are being indoctrinated. That may sound harsh, but withhold judgment until you see the evidence. The traditional scientific method has been replaced with political slogans. Nearly all public school districts have replaced real science with junk science and are using fear to promote a political agenda. But there's a lot we can do. Today we'll look at the evidence, expose the corruption, and I will lay out our strategy to take science education back. This is what some recent data tells us. The 2025 University of Chicago Energy Policy Institute poll showed that in 2017, 55% of people believed that climate change was man-caused. And by 2025, it was slightly down to 52%. A number to be very concerned about is the number of young Republicans who have bought into the climate crisis narrative. A demographic you would think would be more skeptical. That number is up from 26% in 2017, and now it's 42%. And if you're curious about other political affiliations, 67% of Democrats and 45% of independents believe that climate change is man-caused. There are some things we can infer from this. Most importantly, our education system is negatively influencing students. Public science education has replaced critical thinking with emotion, and emotion based on false data. We must equip the next generation with the tools to think critically and eliminate classroom indoctrination. One of the places where we specifically see a problem is with next generation science standards. And what those standards do is weaken critical thinking. 13 years ago, next generation science standards were introduced and have been adopted in 49 states. These standards didn't just tweak the curriculum, they gutted the heart of science. The traditional scientific method, observe, question, hypothesize, predict, experiment, analyze, repeat, has been replaced by vague science and engineering practices. What does this mean? Political agendas, climate alarmism, bias, consensus over evidence, models and groupthink promoted as gospel. Politicized science instead of objective empirical analysis. And the result? No measurable improvement in US science performance. American students are falling behind the world in science education while being fed propaganda. This is not education. This is indoctrination. And this is a significant reason for all of us to be concerned. I should note that our CO2 Coalition member, John Droz, fought hard in North Carolina to get the traditional scientific method reinstated, and he won. And we need to duplicate his efforts in other states. How did science education become politicized? Among the challenges and paradoxes is the National Science Teaching Association, NSTA, the very group that sets the tone for science teachers across America, is saturated with climate activism. Their website promotes titles like Climate Change Education, a model of justice-oriented STEM. The Green Room, when climate change causes extinction. And 1.5 degrees Celsius may not seem like much, but it's a really big deal. They literally tell teachers to listen with compassion and authentic curiosity so children can open up and further explore their feelings. not data, not experiments, explore their feelings. And the image on the slide says it all. A student standing in front of a whiteboard that reads, "There is no planet B." That is emotional manipulation in the public school systems that students face every day. Emphasis on the word public because we're funding that. This is not science. This is activism disguised as education. So the CO2 Coalition called them out on this. We published a detailed challenge to the NSTA's official position statement on climate change. They claim Earth's climate is changing largely due to human-induced increases in heat-absorbing greenhouse gases, that there is an overwhelming scientific consensus with increasing certainty, and that this should be taught as settled science, awarding it a position in science that we don't even give to gravity. We looked at their evidence, listed their flaws, and invited them to debate us. Show us the empirical evidence. Show us the falsifiable tests. Because as we all know, science does not advance by consensus. It advances by rigorous testing and observation. Our publication, challenging the NSTA's position on climate change, is public and available at co2coalition.org. The NSTA's position shows us that the shift from inquiry to indoctrination is happening right now in classrooms across America. Now it gets fun. In March 2023, we confronted the NSTA. At their own conference in Atlanta, we thought if they were really instructors of science, they would welcome a debate. The CO2 Coalition paid for a booth, and as you can see here, Dr. Sharon Camp, Dr. Rafaela Nascimento, Gregory Wrightstone, and I brought educational resources and scientific evidence challenging their consensus. Many teachers were very interested in our data, unaware that there was an alternative viewpoint. They thought it all had been settled. And we were visited by some other exhibitors, groups like NOAA, a government organization, accusing us of being funded by big oil. We distributed hundreds of books and publications. Then the beginning of day 2, we were approached by the NSTA bosses, and they had security in tow. Either stop passing out this heresy or leave. We were kicked out for daring to offer a different perspective. The largest science teachers organization in the country physically removed scientists from their convention because we challenged the dogma. This is not how science works. This is how cults protect their narrative. But we succeeded anyway. Many teachers thanked us before the doors closed behind us. This is good too. While we were at the NSTA conference, we discovered the strangest of ironies. The NSTA proudly accepts money from Shell USA, that's Shell Oil Company, for their Shell Science Teaching Award. The people accusing us of being on the take from big oil are taking money from big oil. They are promoting the very industry they claim is destroying the planet. I assume Shell thought they were buying protection. So the NSTA takes the check, smiles for the photo, and then turns around and tells their teachers and students, don't do business with those people, they're evil. And Shell keeps giving them money. This is cynical opportunism. They demonize the very industry that funds their awards while demanding that teachers accept that CO2 is poison. When politicians use the words scientific consensus to impose their will on us, it's not right, but It's one thing. They like the power and they're clearly ignorant of science. But we expect more from educators. Jonathan Osborne, Professor Emeritus of Education at Stanford, actually said, "The goal of science is the achievement of consensus, not discovery, not truth, consensus." What's missing from his vision? Learning the scientific method, designing experiments, analyzing data, critical thinking. Consensus is a notion that is needed to sell an idea created in computer models that would never pass scientific muster. William Happer, Princeton Professor Emeritus, our CO2 Coalition founder and chairman, and a living legend in the world of physics, said it best, quote, "Observations anchor our understanding and weed out the theories that do not work. This has been the scientific method for more than 300 years. Computer models are not meant to replace theory and observation and to serve as an authority of their own," unquote. And that's the real difference in what our scientific data shows on climate change and what their computer models find. They are seeking an answer they want, and the only way they can get there is through consensus and computer models. Look at the difference makers who changed the world through rigorous science. William Happer invented the sodium guide star laser, giving us sharp views of distant worlds from the ground that revolutionized astronomy. John Clauser performed rigorous experiments that confirmed quantum entanglement, challenging prevailing assumptions and earning the Nobel Prize. Galileo used his telescope to let observation triumph over dogma. Marie Curie, working in a makeshift lab under dangerous conditions, persisted with painstaking experiments to discover radium and polonium, forever changing physics and medicine. And Louis Pasteur's meticulous work disproved spontaneous generation and gave us vaccines that saved millions of lives. This is what happens when brilliant minds follow the scientific method with courage and rigor. They expand humanity's understanding and improve lives. That's the kind of science we should be teaching across classrooms in America. Consensus can be used to manipulate. The political need for a crisis has created a dangerous narrative, and it's taking its toll on young people. Students have been taught to be terrified of what is to come, and they believe it is out of their control. Annika Sweetland, a climate studies graduate, lay awake night after night in worry. She calculated when food shortages would hit. She worried about where she could safely live because of rising sea level. She even questioned whether it was ethical to bring a child into a world she believed was collapsing. In one interview, I heard Annika say, "All they had done was teach me. No threats, no violence, just teaching." Annika is from Australia, but that crisis narrative is being sold to students in America every day. One of those American students, Lucy Biggers, had a similar experience. She mentioned in an interview that she got her identity from being a good person. She believed that good people don't question the climate movement. Good people don't listen to fossil fuel shills or defend fossil fuels. Good people don't question the climate narrative. But now the good news is that both Lucy and Annika awakened to the fact that they had been misled. They are examples of climate activists who shut off the alarm. And they are both sharing their experiences at this conference. Annika Sweetland is now a member of the CO2 Coalition and will be working together with our incredible team to defeat the forces of disinformation that have wreaked havoc on science education. We at the CO2 Coalition are breaking up the climate junkies' monopoly on science education. We created the CO2 Learning Center to reach even the youngest students. Right now, we are mostly K through 8th grade focused, but we are working on adding high school and college materials. Our distinguished volunteer scientists have written books that teach the truth about carbon dioxide, making it understandable and relatable to children. Throughout our materials, children learn that CO2 is the miracle molecule that makes life possible, not a pollutant to fear. Our books are beautifully illustrated by our visual arts director, Tiago Hellinger. Tiago also illustrates and animates our videos that are written by our Education Committee Chairman, Payne Kilborn. And each book and video have comprehensive lesson plans written by Dr. Sharon Camp, our Senior Education Advisor. In addition to the NSTA conference, for the last 3 years, we've attended many homeschool conferences, distributing our books and lesson plans to parent educators who are desperate to teach their children real critical thinking skills. We also distribute our science materials to private schools and public schools willing to teach real science, all paid for by our donors. We are about to launch a scholarship program that will provide financial support for young scientists seeking answers. These real science-focused students will lead the descent to the climate crisis narrative, sharing the data and science that shares what students so greatly need to see, that there is no climate crisis. We will also be working with schools to start science clubs and will sponsor our members to speak at schools, sponsoring debates for anyone willing to defend their junk science. The more influence we have over public discourse, the more people will realize that there is another side to this narrative that is based in logic and real science, not computer models or consensus. Our education committee is comprised of members with impressive science credentials, volunteering their time and expertise with nothing to gain but the hope of a future where students can learn science without an agenda attached. The battle for science education is the battle for our children's future. We cannot let fear replace facts. We cannot let consensus replace the scientific method. We must restore curiosity, rigor, and wonder to every classroom. I'm looking forward to working with all of you to restore the highest standards of science education.